in electrodynamics, we look at this electric dipole moment, P. So what's it good for, though? Why would you do that? Well, there's a bunch of reasons, and we're going to get into that a little bit when we talk about actual charged matter, dielectrics. But let's use the example of a water molecule. So a water molecule, H2O, has an oxygen and two hydrogens, and it's a permanent dipole. So over here, the oxygen has a charge of -2e. E is a charge in electron, and then plus and plus e for the two hydrogens. And then there's a bond angle. The angle from the vertical is 52.25 degrees. And then this is like an angstrom or something. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to use real units there. Okay, so what we're going to do is to find the electric field due to this water molecule, which is neutral, right? And we're going to do it two different ways. The first way is I'm just going to calculate it explicitly. So I have all these charges right there, and I can calculate the electric field at some location. So this is, I can put my origin right here. So I can calculate my electric field right there at some location RO. Well, the first thing I need to do is find the vector locating each charge, and then I can say R1 is going to be RO, the observation location, minus RQ1. So this is the vector locating our charge RQ1, right? Each one of them has its own vector. And then the electric field due to that one charge is just the electric field due to a point charge, 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 over R1 squared R1 hat. And then I can just do that for the other two charges and add up the total electric field. And now I'm going to make a 3D quiver plot because I think it looks cool. And I want to use WebVPython. I do like using Dada. I do like using Matplotlib. It's just that I like this a little bit better. So that's the first way, and that's the exact electric field. Now, we could also calculate the electric dipole moment. So the electric dipole moment looks like this. P is going to be the sum over I, Qi, Ri. So I'm just going to take each charge and multiply it by its vector location and then add it up. And that's my dipole moment. There's only 3 of them, so it's not that bad. And then I can find the electric field at any location RO using the dipole moment. So here I'm going to say E is going to be equal to 3 times, I'm trying to remember, P dot RO hat times RO hat minus P, all of that over 4 pi epsilon naught RO cubed. Now there's another form for the electric field for that, but this one's really nice because if these are all just vector operations. It's not specific to any particular coordinate system. And that's really nice because now I can go in 3 dimensions, not just in 2 dimensions. It's going to be a lot easier. And I derived this in a previous video. If you can't find that, comment down below and I'll show you where it is. But this is part of my playlist for electrodynamics. Hopefully you can find that. So we're going to do the electric field 2 different ways, and then we're going to just make a comparison. We're going to make a map, and it's going to be awesome. Okay, we've got a lot of work to do because the first thing I want to do is I'm going to have, let's just sketch it out. So here's my XY axis. I'm going to have my hydrogens, my oxygen right there. And then what I need to do is to make a 3D grid. That's going to be in 3D. And at all those points, I'm going to calculate the electric field and then draw an arrow there. And I'm actually going to calculate the unit vector of the electric field. Otherwise, it just gets too messy. It looks fine. It'll be cool. Let's get to it then, right? Okay, so jumping over here to Python. So I have Python started up right here. Let's just start off with some things. I'm going to say, let's call this L is 1. So L as 1 is going to be the size of my grid spacing, right? And I'm not going to use real units here because it just gets messy. So I need K is 1, Q is 1. So those are all, K is 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught, 1. Q is the charge of an electron, 1. And A, let's say A, what did I pick A as before? I'm going to say L over 10, right? And that's my bond length because my molecule wants to be small compared to the size of my grid. What else? I think that, theta is going to be 52.25 times pi over 180. What else? Okay, Next thing I need is like a spacing, right? I'm going to make this grid I'm going to go from negative L to L in XYZ direction, but I need a spacing. I'm going to call that spacing ds. And I used this value before. I've done this before. ds of 0.03 makes a good compromise. If you make this smaller, you're going to get more arrows. If you make it bigger, you're going to get less arrows. Okay, let's just get to it. We need to make our grid of stuff. Oh, I need to make my dx, dy, dz, how much I'm going to move. So dx is just going to be the vector ds 0, 0. They don't all have to be the same direction size, but vector 0, ds 0. dz is going to be the vector 0, 0, ds. Okay, now I need a starting location. I'm going to call it RT. RT is going to be the vector negative L, negative L, negative L. So I'm going to start in the lower bottom corner. Now I need to make a 3-part loop. I'm going to try to do it the same way I did before. So my outer loop is going to be over z. So while rt.z is less than L. And then I need to make a loop while rt.y is less than L, colon. And then while rt.x is less than L. Now, this is not going to work, right? Because every time, think about I'm going through that row, I'm increasing my x value, and now I'm going to move up to my new y value. I need to reset my x to 0. So up here, I'm going to put, or back to negative, rt.x is negative L. Yep. And then the same thing for y up here, rt.y is negative L. So I'm resetting those values every time I go through my next loop. So I'm going to go, this goes over my z values, my y values, my r values. Now I'm over here, I'm going to start going through my x values. Now what I want to do is to add a vector location to my list. So I want to make it as a list so I can reference it again. So I'm going to call that p's for points, p's, right? And it's an empty list. And then I'm just going to add that vector to my empty list. So down here, p's equals p's plus the vector rt. So I'm going to move through and add those positions. And then I'm going to increase my value of x. So rt equals rt plus dx. Once I get done with that loop and I get to L, then I want to increase my y values. So I'm going to say rt equals rt plus dy. And then I'm going to increase the value of my z values. I'm just checking to make sure I don't make a mistake. This is where you can get into a lot of trouble because you can make infinite loops. Now, I don't know if it's going to work or not, so what I'm going to do just temporarily is I'm going to put a little sphere. I'm going to draw a sphere at the location of my RT. So the sphere position is the vector RT, and then let's put the radius at L over, I don't know, what did I do before? Over 100. L divided by 100. Okay, let's just see if it works. And I'm just trying to make the grid. Check that out. Boom. It's nice. Zoom in, zoom out. Okay, stop playing around. Okay, now I have my grid. I don't need to draw my spheres here anymore. Next thing I want to do is to go ahead and create my water molecule. So I'm going to put that down here. So I'm going to make 3 points. I'm going to make my oxygen. I'm call it ox. It's a sphere. Its position is going to be, if you look at, if I want it on the y-axis, it's going to be at vector 0 on the x direction, and then the y is going to be a times cosine of theta, right? Because that theta is measured from the vertical right there. And then my z is 0. Radius, I'm going to put that at, well, you can't even see this. My fault. Let's do a over 10, right? Because that's that, just make it smaller. And then let's give it a color of blue because it's negative. And you should know that blue charges are negative charges are blue. And then I'm going to say Q equals negative 2 times Q. So Q is my default fundamental charge. And then I want to say Q equals 2Q. This is the property of the object ox, right? So I can say ox.q and it's going to be negative 2q. And you might think that's dumb, you don't need to do that. But you should do that. It's a good way to do it. Now I need to make my hydrogens. H1 is going to be a sphere. Position is going to be vector A times sine of theta. theta, you have to spell it right. And so on the x-axis, and then I'll put it the same size. Radius is a over 10. It's positive, so what color are positive charges? Red. Color equals color dot red, and then Q equals Q. And that looks weird, but it's very useful, right? Because now I can say H1 dot Q is that value of charge. And you can have those the same name, but it works fine. H2 equals sphere. This is my other one. Position is going to be the vector negative a times sine of theta, 0, 0. And then the radius is also equal to a over 10. And then the color is also red. And then the charge is also Q. Okay, let's just run it. Let's make sure that these things look fine. So I remember I turned off the points for my grid, so there's nothing there. See, I just see my water molecule. Okay, seems fine. Now I'm going to do a little simplification that will be useful if you want to make more complicated charge distributions. I'm going to say QS is a list of my charges, and I'm going to add to it oxygen, H1, H2. So now I can just go through the list and calculate things. I don't have to reference each one individually. It's really just me being lazy, and that's fine. You could do it. You don't have to do that. Next, what I'm going to do is to take my list of charges and make a function that calculates the electric field. I'm going to say def E. I'm going to give it an observation location, ROT, and then it should return the electric field at that location, the unit vector of that. Remember, because I want that unit vector. So what I need to do is to say for QS in, no, what did I call that? QS. Let's call it QT in QS. So this will go through my list of Qs, and I can reference each one as QT. Now actually up here I need this, ET equals vector 0, 0, 0, because I'm going to add the electric field for each charge to the total, but I need to start with the total. Okay, so right here, the first thing I'm going to do is to calculate RTT. I'm going to call it temporary R. I use RT, I'm going to use RT, even though this will be fine. And it's going to be ROT minus QT.POS. Remember, QT is a sphere, so I need .POS as the vector location of that sphere. Now I can calculate the electric field, ET, is just going to be the total plus K times QT.Q, that's the charge on that one, times norm RTT, which is the vector from that charge to the observation location, divided by mag RTT squared. And that's it. And then I'm just going to return norm ET. Again, I'm doing norm because it'll turn out better in the end. You could return the actual electric field, but let's just check it out. RO equals vector 3 times A, 4 times A, 0. I just pick something, and then print ET of RO. Let's just see if it works. If it doesn't work, then we need to fix it. And see, we need to fix it. ET is not defined. Okay. ET is not defined. ET is this E. That's why. Silly mistake. There we go. Looks like a unit vector. Seems fine. Don't know if it's exactly fine, but I'm going to assume that it's fine. Now what I can do is to go through all of my points and calculate the electric field. I am going to need an E scale. Let's put it at 0.1. We can change it later. Go through all my points in my grid, calculate the electric field at that location, and make an arrow there. Okay, so remember I have all these P's. So let's just say for PT in P's. So that's my temporary P location. I probably shouldn't use P, but I did. But they're all called P, and those are just vectors. All I want to do, I can do this in one step. I'm going to draw an arrow. The position of that arrow is going to be PT. The axis for that arrow is going to be E scale times E of PT. That's it. Now I'm going to give it a color. Color equals color dot yellow. Right? So you see what that's doing, right? Let's just think about that for a second. I'm going through my grid. I'm calculating the electric field at each one of those points, and I'm drawing an arrow there. That's all I'm doing. Let's see if it looks cool or if it looks dumb. I should save this, shouldn't I? Save. Run. Okay, the answer is it looks cool. So there's my this is the exact electric field due to those charges right there. And that's not the electric field, it's a unit vector, right? It's in the direction. So that's the exact. Now what we want to do is do the exact same thing and calculate the electric field based on the dipole moment. So let's go ahead and calculate our dipole moment. I'll just put it right here, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say P is the vector 0, 0, 0. And then for QT in QS, I'm going to use that same thing. I want to go through and multiply the charge by its position and add it to P. So P equals P plus QT.Q times QT.POS. That's it. Now I have my dipole moment vector. Next, I'm going to calculate the electric field due to the dipole. So I'm going to define a function, def ED for dipole, pass it an observation location. And now I just want to use this formula that I put on the board, this 3p r hat minus p, all that stuff. So let's just say ET is going to be 3 times dot p norm ROT, and then times ROT, and then minus p. And then all of that divided by 4 pi, which is multiplying by k, and then dividing by mag ROT cubed. And you can't even see that, sorry. And then return ET. Let's just assume it works. If it doesn't work, we'll find out. So I'm going to go back up here and do the same thing right here. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to do it again. But this time, I'm going to use the function ED at that location. And I need to make it a different color. It needs to be magenta, because dipoles make magenta arrows. Let's see what happens. So we're doing 2 different ways to calculate that electric field. Oh, I did not return the unit vector. So return norm ET. And again, see, you saw what happened when you don't do that. You get electric fields that are very close to your charges, and they get ginormous. And so that's why if you just plot the unit vector for the electric field, it just looks a little bit nicer. You don't have to do that. You can do it however you like. That's the way I like to do it. Okay, there we go. So the yellow is exact. The magenta is not exact. And you'll notice that when I'm far away over here, like over here, they're very close to each other, right? The further away you get from those, the better your approximation of the dipole is. Now, but when you look over here very close, these are not the same because I'm too close to the charges, and that's in the z direction. My dipole moment is in the x, it's in the y direction. So that does make it look a little weird. So it's not perfect, but it does give a pretty good value, especially when you get further away. Everything seems to work out. Of course, you could also approximate this just as a 0 charge. That's the monopole approximation. But there you go. This is pretty cool. I mean, it's not just physics, it's art. And there's my charges right down there. You can see them. There's my water. One of the things that, there's a bunch of things you can do. One of the things, I wanted to try something. Let's just see. There was a property of objects that make them not have a shadow. I can't remember what that is, but I don't think it matters. I'm not going to mess around with it too much. I got the code. I did the calculation. I'm going to count this as a win and move on before I mess things up. So I'll put this code down below, a link to this code down below so you can use it and play with it, and a link to the whole playlist down below. Again, if you can't remember something from a previous video and you comment, I'm probably going to answer and put that link, unless you're watching this 5 years from now, and then I'll probably be like, I can't remember what I did right there. And so I would have to go back and look. So I'm just rambling on now. I'll talk to you guys later.